Hey there, spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of the Scaryish podcast.
Woo!
I'm Robin Grace Adam Diaz. That's a Christmas woo.
Hello.
Maybe you can put bells or something in there.
How's that?
What the fuck is that?
Ho, ho, ho.
Oh,
And woos instead.
okay.
So it sounded like a dog begging for food.
Yeah, it sounded like that one dog from Rick and Morty. When he's like in his sleep, he's like whining in his sleep.
Oh,
He's
Snowball?
Like, yeah. Anyway, we're here with some topics for you like we are every week. Adam's going to continue with his Disaster December, I believe.
Indeed, I am.
And I'm going to take a little Christmas tour type topic, but because I wanted to go festive. I wanted to do something that has to do with when this is releasing, which is Christmas time.
Indeed, this is our last topic episode before Christmas hits, and we usually have at least one topic of the topic episodes that are Christmas themed. And I'm not sure what yours is, but like you said, it's supposed to be for this like festive holiday season. So
yeah.
I'm excited to hear about it. I'm going to be covering the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami.
Cool.
Which, spoiler alert for things a minute from now. But yeah, that took place on Boxing Day. So it is definitely a Christmas time disaster.
Can you explain what Boxing Day is?
The day after Christmas. Don't know why it's called Boxing Day. I'm pretty sure it's because you don't like your gifts. You just go and beat the shit out of someone. Or, I don't know, something else. But yeah, that's what I'm going to be covering. Robin, what are you going to be covering?
I'm going to be covering Bramshill House. It is a house that is haunted.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Some quick insight into our life, what we've been doing since the last topic episode. Pretty sure in the last 7 days, you had your graduation ceremony, which was pretty effing sweet.
Yeah.
Watching you walk and collect your diploma. And it, I believe, is by far our most liked post on Instagram ever.
Yeah.
Which I would like to address something here. We decided we were going to recreate one of the pictures from A Million Ways to Die in the West, where people are so miserable they don't realize that they should smile in pictures yet. So
No.
that's what we did.
It's not that they don't realize they should smile in pictures. It's because a picture takes like 2 minutes.
I think it's 30 seconds.
Or something like that. And so the fact that you would hold a smile for 30 seconds
You'd
is
have to be
crazy.
insane.
Yeah.
So we took that picture, we posted it, and when like later people were like, why are you guys so serious about it? And it's like, it was a joke, but yeah, some people didn't read that part, but that's okay. Huge congratulations to Robin for graduating and getting her degree.
Thank you.
It is a massive milestone, so I'm proud of you, and so are a lot of other folks as well. But
Thank you, everyone.
just want to toss that out there. And then the other thing that's happened in the last 6-7 days is Spider-Man No Way Home. So we went and saw that this weekend. I gotta say, I was trying to
It is the best Spider-Man movie I've ever seen.
I was trying to avoid spoilers and not get too hyped for it, and I'm happy I did both of those things because I very much enjoyed that movie. So if you haven't seen it and you're interested, I would say go see it, especially if you're a fan of Spider-Man or the MCU or any of that. And if you haven't seen it and you don't have an interest in it, then fuck it. You don't have to go. Go do something else with your life. No big deal. Watch Wheel of Time and then listen to Twats, the Wheel of Time show about the Wheel of Time show. It's a great podcast.
It was crazy to go to the movie theater and have the trailer for Wheel of Time playing at the movie theater.
Amazon's dumping a lot of money into this show, and so far it's doing pretty well as far as streaming numbers go. Reviews are, I don't know, mixed. I think it's like 7-3, like positive to negative, which isn't bad, but overall, yeah. But that said, I really enjoyed Spider-Man, and I'm probably going to go see it a second time if I can. So it's pretty good stuff. What do you think, Robin?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Again, best Spider-Man movie I've ever seen.
Right on.
I don't want to spoil. Yeah, I don't want to spoil things.
I couldn't believe Peter Parker turned out to be Spider-Man. I was like, what? No way. I've never seen a Spider-Man before, so I was confused.
Shut up. You're so stupid.
Right on. So I'm going to go ahead and move into my topic for this episode. So this week, I am going to be continuing with Disaster December. The thing about covering disasters that is very different compared to cryptids or hauntings is that cryptids and hauntings come with a certain amount of healthy speculation and skepticism. There's a lot of doubt, and it's kind of fun to go over something that's very possibly not real, you know? Disasters are just 100% real. They're awful things that have occurred that affected very large groups of people, sometimes a large portion of the world. And that is precisely what I'm covering this week when I cover the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. When I cover a topic, there is usually this element of me telling you, the listener, about an event that you may or may not know about, and I can kind of educate you more if you have heard about it. But I think it's safe to say that for anyone alive and sentient in 2004, this is something you're going to remember. It's not like I'm telling you a story of something that you hadn't heard about.
Right.
I don't think there's a lot of people out there that have not heard about this
Unless
tsunami.
you weren't born yet or you were a very young child.
If you hadn't been born yet, you might not have heard about it. Or if you were a very young child, you might not have been like sentient yet. You're probably in that like weird haze of being an infant or a toddler where you're kind of on autopilot while your body learns to be human, learns languages, and you're only worried about eating and napping and pooping your pants, which sounds like awesome. I wish those are my only concerns nowadays.
You can poop in your pants all night. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's true. This event, though, happened almost 17 years ago to the day. When this episode comes out, it will be December 21st. This happened, like I said, on Boxing Day, the day after Christmas, which is December 26th in the year 2004. In the year 2004, y'all remember 2004, right? Even though it feels like 2004 wasn't that long ago, yes, it was 17 years ago. 17 years is a long time.
I was a sophomore. Sophomore. I was a sophomore in high school.
I was a sophomore in college. So
Jesus.
was just moving into my sophomore year of college, in fact. So in 2004, a gallon of gas was $2.10. The average cost of a house across the United States was $275,000.
Dang.
For reference, that same statistic is $375,000 nowadays. The Red Sox had won their first World Series in 86 years. Martha Stewart was convicted and became a felon and served 5 months in prison, for those of you who don't remember that. And Lance Armstrong won his 6th straight Tour de France on his way to 7 titles, on his way to them all being stripped because he used performance-enhancing drugs and lied about it to us the entire time. And in February of 2004, a little website known as Facebook was launched.
Yo, what?
That was the birthday of Facebook. So for me personally, at the end of 2004, I just made it through my 3rd semester of college. We're talking about December 26th, Boxing Day of 2004. That means I had just cleared my 3rd semester, and I was considering switching my major from computer science to creative writing, which I wound up doing, which was probably, in retrospect, a mistake. But I think it worked out for the best overall. Aside from that, I just moved out of my parents' house and got my own apartment, which was pretty effing sweet. And on Christmas Eve's Eve, I had a party at my apartment for my friends for the first time where we weren't in like someone else's house. It was my place, which was pretty awesome. We all had a wonderful time. My friend Lee wound up sleeping underneath the table using wrapping paper as blanket, which was hilarious. 3 days later, in the early hours of December 26th, though, something catastrophic would happen at 7:58 and 53 seconds a.m. local time. An earthquake occurred. This was no ordinary earthquake. We've talked about the earthquakes we felt in Vegas before and the shaking that we've experienced based off of those magnitudes, which was a 7.1 that occurred in California. We could feel it shaking in the Las Vegas Valley. I've previously covered the San Francisco earthquake. I think it was only 8 episodes ago, in fact, that absolutely leveled a portion of San Francisco and caused fires that burned the rest of the city except for around 10%. 90% of San Francisco was wiped off the face of the earth from that event. The earthquake that destroyed San Francisco was a 7.9 on the Richter scale. And I mentioned during that episode that for each 10th of a point, the earthquake is 3.3 times more powerful. So if you go from 7.9 to an 8.0, it's 3.3 times more powerful, which is substantial. You're 7.9 and 8.0, and you think, oh, they're really close. But they're really not. Like an 8.0 is horrific. So the amount of energy being released while we just cling to the ground as it tosses us around like we're nothing is really, really frightening to think about. And you basically just have to hope that if an earthquake is going to happen, it happens somewhere you're not, because there's nothing you can do to prevent it. But sometimes that's not even good enough. And that is what happened on December 26th, 2004. The earthquake that occurred at 7:58 and 53 seconds a.m. did technically occur where no one was. Its epicenter was 100 miles off the coast of the island of Sumatra in Indonesia. If you don't know where that is, feel free to check out our Instagram or Facebook. I'm posting some pictures regarding the region and the overall results of what we're about to go through. The San Francisco earthquake was a 7.9, like I mentioned. The earthquake registered on Boxing Day in 2004 was a 9.15.
Oh my god.
So overall, it was 41 times the amount of energy that was released in the 1906 San Francisco earthquake that absolutely destroyed that city. The sea floor where this took place literally rose where the earthquake took place. And it rose across a range of like 900 miles in various heights. The shaking was felt thousands of miles away. The earthquake, which are typically between 10 and 30 seconds, the more severe ones between 30 and 60 seconds, this earthquake lasted for a sustained 10 minutes.
Wow.
The amount of energy that was released was measured, as most things are when you're talking about energy released, in terms of the Hiroshima bomb. Everyone stacks it up to that because we've seen the devastation that the bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima, Japan in 1945 looked like, you know? It was just devastating. The energy felt on the Earth's surface was equal to just over 1,500 Hiroshima bombs being detonated all at once. Being that close to an earthquake of that scale caused destruction that we really can't imagine on that massive of a scale, which is made difficult by what's to follow the earthquake because it's very hard to determine what was destroyed by the earthquake and then what was absolutely obliterated by the tsunami to come. As we know, for those of us that remember what's to come, at least, the earthquake was really nothing compared to the tsunami. And that's saying something because it was a 9.1. I mentioned that part of the seafloor near the epicenter rose, and it's important that I bring that back up because the two tectonic plates that caused this disaster are not like the two tectonic plates in San Francisco. So when I talked about the San Francisco one, it was taking your hands, putting them side by side, moving one hand forward, one hand backwards. Mm-hmm. And that friction is basically what happened in San Francisco. In this case, put your hands side by side and have one of your hands dip underneath the other one while the opposite one rises. And that's the kind of friction that happened in this case.
Do you know the actual technical words?
No, and there's no point because you'll forget them and I'll forget them immediately. However, at the seafloor epicenter where this took place, it wasn't 1,500 times that of the Hiroshima bomb that was released when it comes to energy. At the seafloor, at the epicenter, the energy released was equal to 550 million times that of the Hiroshima bomb. That is how substantial of an event this was. I was reading this report regarding the movement of those two tectonic plates over the last 100 years, and they said that roughly like 22% of the movement occurred during this event. That's fucking nuts, considering how many earthquakes happened there. And the 3 earthquakes that have happened there are 3 of the deadliest earthquakes of all time. And those 3 earthquakes amount for like 75% of the movement over the last 100 years, which is insane to think about. This earthquake was the 3rd strongest earthquake in recorded human history, since we were able to actually start measuring these things. Like I mentioned, the seafloor rose. And it's like holding your hands next to one another underwater and doing that exact same thing. And when one of your hands moves up, the water above it has a reaction. It's essentially like throwing a giant pebble into the middle of the ocean. When this much energy was released and the seafloor rose, 7.2 cubic miles of ocean water was displaced. That's over 8 trillion gallons of water suddenly adjusting to a seafloor that just rose, in some cases, hundreds of feet, which is, you just can't picture it. It's something that if you saw in a movie, you'd think it's fake, you know? And when you throw a rock into the water, that ripple effect goes out in all directions, and that's exactly what happened here. And when that tsunami is moving over water and not towards the land yet, it moves around 500 miles per hour. It's shockingly fast. Once it gets closer to the shallows and the earth starts to rise to meet the water, it slows down significantly, but as it slows down, it's because it's stacking on top of each other, which is why it looks like that wall of white. I've watched like 50 tsunami videos this night just trying to like remind myself of this devastation, and it was just baffling to watch some of these things. So when it slows down and it builds this wall, it gets taller and taller, but the destructive force is still substantial, but it doesn't slow down for everywhere. In the case of a town known as Longna, an Indonesian town that was really near the epicenter, the devastation was absolute. The power caused by the earthquake underwater had shallower areas near the epicenter near this town basically shoot up out of the sea floor. And it was so devastating that these waves did not take long after the earthquake ended to hit. After the earthquake struck, the ocean receded back out so far, the coral reefs off the coast were completely visible and no longer underwater. The first wave that came in was around 8 feet high, and it caused substantial flooding, but not significant amounts of loss of life yet. That then receded, and around 5 minutes after the first wave hit, the second wave hit. And this is something that is going to be said multiple times, because when that second wave hit, anyone who survived this, and there were very few, stated that it sounded like explosions happening off the coast as it approached, because it's slowly smashing into itself, building higher and higher. When it hit the coastline, it was measured at around 98 feet high, and it absolutely devastated and destroyed everything in its path.
And it's just like a storm surge kind of thing, right? Where it's just that it's that high and it just keeps going.
Correct. It's not like there's empty space behind it. It just moves in until the ocean essentially pulls itself back out. So it just sweeps inland as far as it'll go. And then eventually it subsided. It pulled back. The tides receded again. They could see these corals again, what was left of them after being destroyed by the oncoming tsunami. And then the third wave hit, which was just as big as the second wave. And it was basically like this entire area didn't exist anymore. It was evaporated off the face of the earth. Some of the folks that survived headed to high ground and stated that there was a point where the water reached their feet on a hill that was providing them shelter. That hill was 167 feet higher than sea level.
Wow.
Which means that it crested at a point of 167 feet high, which is the highest recorded point of the tsunami for any of the affected regions. This town was literally wiped off the map. The satellite photo, which I will post on our Instagram, is absolutely heartbreaking. It is just a picture of a coastal town. It looks very, very pretty. In the center is this white dot. And then the next picture is a few days after the tsunami, and like all the foliage, all the trees, all the bushes, all the grass are gone. And all the buildings, everything, all signs of life have been erased. It's just this picture of a region that used to exist that's now just brown. And at the center is still that white dot. It's the only building in the entire town that survived, and that building was the mosque. That's where people went to pray, thinking that they were going to die, and in some cases they did.
That's got to be some amazing construction.
But the building overall survived it, and it was the only thing. I think they said this town was around 20,000 people, and it still exists today from people who have rebuilt, but the population's only around 400.
Only 400?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So it has not rebuilt as a lot of these other places have, but I'm going to keep going on. So Banda Aceh, I'm not saying that right, I know it and I apologize, is a large city on the coast of Indonesia as well. It's a tourist destination due to its natural beauty and its placement on the coast. It's a very nice place. A lot of the pictures of it remind me of when we were in Mexico and we had our resort that was like right on the Pacific Ocean, and how gorgeous that was. Now you just have like these rows upon rows of chairs to lay in on the beach, and you just sort of like lay there and hang out. And that's kind of what this touristy area is. And many of the videos we all saw in 2004 came from multiple regions, and Banda Aceh, or Aceh, was one of them. And again, the ocean receded here, and a lot of the tourists walked out into the area the water had previously been, and they were just sort of fascinated by what was happening. But the locals were screaming because they understood what was about to happen, that people needed to run and hide. Some folks knew immediately and tried to warn others to get as far inland or as high as they possibly could, because 20 minutes after the earthquake, the tsunami arrived. And survivors reported seeing what they called a mountain of water, or a wall of blackness, racing towards them. When the wave reached the shoreline, it did so with a wall of water that was 40 feet high, sweeping everything with it as it raced inwards. And because of the topography of this town, some parts of the city are simply just facing the Indian Ocean. You know, they're like that resort that we stayed at. Anything that was facing the Indian Ocean that was part of the shoreline was absolutely and literally flattened when the wave arrived. Foliage, buildings, trees, and people were all swept away inland.
And it's just, it goes so fast.
Yeah, and there's nothing you can do. There is literally nothing you can do. The ocean's coming inland, and you're going with it unless you found a place where you can get high up enough on a structure that's not going to collapse. That's the only thing you can do. It was measured in the northeast part of the city, 5 miles inland, that the wall of water was still 20 feet tall. So think about those videos you saw of the ocean coming in.
Yeah.
Imagine how far 5 miles is and how much ocean water would have to keep going where the wave is still literally 20 feet tall, 5 miles inland.
That's crazy.
Even that far in, the only buildings that didn't get swept away from the tsunami were those that were made of concrete or brick, and even those only stood a chance if they had maintained their structural integrity through the 10-minute earthquake that preceded it, and not a lot did. There's a river in this area known as the Etche River, and it flows from the mountainous region downwards until it meets the Indian Ocean at the coastline. The river's flow was reversed from the tsunami, and it was reversed for so long that it carried debris from the wreckage and bodies of those that were killed from the wave inland 25 miles. If you search this city now, you can see its tourist areas have recovered in many places, and it's again beautiful. It's a beautiful place to visit, but there are parts of it that were submerged in the 2004 tsunami that have never become unsubmerged. They are just underwater. The water didn't recede. The water didn't evaporate. It's just there, and it's part of the area that used to be livable that is no longer livable. At the time, the world focused on sending aid, and I think we all remember that, but scientists and researchers really wanted to start evaluating the toll that had been taken, in addition to figuring out some more early warning systems. 2 particular geological surveyors traveled to this city to evaluate the damage, and this is what they had to say. Quote, "We took a boat all the way from the middle of the island up to Banda Etche, the hardest hit area, and for hundreds of kilometers, it was as if someone had taken an eraser and erased everything under the 20-meter line.
Wow.
The sheer scale of the destruction was mind-boggling." End quote. You just can't imagine it. It was so horrific to see those videos.
So anything under 20 meters was just decimated.
Which is 60 fucking feet. It's so high up. Like, imagine where you're standing and imagine how high 60 feet up is. And imagine it just being gone. All of it is just
higher
gone.
than our house.
It's so much higher than our house. It's terrifying to think of. And the destruction wasn't just there. I think a lot of folks see the videos online from 2004 and the images of the water like crashing over the walls and stuff like that, and they think this must be near the epicenter, but that's not the case. Like, Sri Lanka is an island country off the southern tip of India. It's 1,100 miles away from where the earthquake happened. It took 2 hours of the water moving at 500 miles per hour for the tsunami to reach there. And it was still absolutely fucking devastating for them as well. Wow. The wall of water was still 30 feet high when it reached their shores. It swelled to 45 feet in some areas because the massive wave, that's the length of their country, wrapped around the country. It wasn't just like the west side got hit. Like, the southern part had the wave start wrapping around it, and the east side of the island, which you think would be sheltered and protected, had some of the worst effects to it.
Is it because it whipped around?
It whips around and it like reflects or refracts. I forget the exact terminology used, but this reflected. It gets reflected, and some of the worst damage happened there. Sri Lanka isn't a small country either. It's 3.5 times the size of New Jersey. It's not like a tiny island in the middle of the ocean, you know? It's a big place.
Right.
One of the saddest stories from Sri Lanka was about a passenger train on the west side of the country. It was carrying around 2,000 people between 2 cities along the coastline on the west side that you would imagine would be safe. Even though it was there was still significant risk. Communications to the train failed during transit, and the passengers recorded and uploaded videos of the receding tide when it occurred on the opposite coast than that of the epicenter.
Wow.
They then posted videos of the ocean rising again and coming over the shoreline as the first wave arrived. They were fairly inland, but they could still see the shore, and the tracks for the train in lower areas was submerged. Not to the point of being impassable, but to the point of being like several feet deep. And again, those videos were posted of the train slowing down and coming to a stop in certain areas, and examining whether or not they could move ahead before they slowly did. And those are the last videos I could locate. Based on what was recovered after all was said and done, it's clear that this very large and very packed passenger train, which had so many passenger carts along the way, was hit by the second wave. And that second wave hit at a height of between 25 and 30 feet. The massive train was derailed and rolled into the nearby forest.
Oh my God.
Where it became stuck against all these trees. And the damage done to the doors, combined with the overfilled cars, made it impossible for the doors to be opened as these cars filled with water and were submerged from the ocean coming inland. The highest point the trains reached still were underwater by at least 10 feet. So the 2,000 passengers or so and employees aboard these trains all drowned or died from the impact. The death total
what the fuck?
of the train makes it the largest single rail disaster in human history.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
If you're just evaluating based off of like trains that run on a single rail, this is the worst train disaster, and it all came specifically from the tsunami. Thailand has similar stories of resorts that were overrun with 30 to 40 feet walls of water. Countless videos from folks at resorts all over Thailand show the tsunami coming in and just sweeping everything away, then pulling it back out into the ocean. I saw so many horrific videos that I hadn't seen before because I'd like deep dived on YouTube, where it's like people standing on the beach when the tsunami arrives that just disappear. It's horrific. Or people that are like stuck in the water forming like human chains and stuff like that while the water is washing back out into the ocean, that are just, they're being pulled into the open sea before the next tsunami wave hits. And it's like horrifying. And I understand why so many people are like, we didn't recover our relative that's gone. And so many folks are just missing rather than counted as dead. And it's really, really hard to watch. Like a few minutes later, after the initial wave shows up, another bigger wave comes in and causes even more devastation. Even 3,100 miles away from where this happened, in Somalia, which is off the coast, the east coast of Africa, a completely different continent, a total of 4 waves arrived over 7 hours later, and those 4 waves were between 16 and 30 feet. They had warning. They had 7 hours worth of warning, and even that place still lost around 230 people.
Oh my God.
Folks who had never heard of a tsunami running all the way across the ocean from 3,100 miles away probably thought like Americans think when hurricanes are going to hit, where it's like, I'll be fine. You know, I'm just going to ride it out. I'm going to ride out the storm. I'll ride out the wave. I'll be fine. But even 3,100 miles away, it wasn't enough. In total, it's estimated that between 230 and 300,000 people died on December 26, 2004, across 14 different countries in 3 continents, some over 7,000 miles away from one another.
Wow.
7,000 miles. That's 2 United States stacked side by side.
Oh my God.
That's insane. The water that ran inland and was unable to retreat poisoned countless drinking supplies because it's salt water. And drowned crops and livestock alike, leading to famine and disease during the recovery process for so many of the places that were affected. The damages were estimated to have cost nearly $15 billion.
But,
and
you know, human life is priceless.
Human life is priceless, and there was almost 300,000 people that died. It's horrific. And the reason I include the financial number of $15 billion is because as horrific and tragic as this disaster was, and like a lot of us lived through it, it did bring out a lot of good in a lot of people. Over $14 billion, almost the exact same amount that was lost, was provided from nations all over the world to help rebuild and assist the nearly 2 million people who survived and were displaced by the disaster. The government of Australia initially led the way with $820 million in aid that was donated. Germany, Japan, Canada, Norway, the Netherlands, the US, Italy, and countless other countries also donated money and resources to help the recovery efforts. The US initially pledged $42 million, but then President George W. Bush at the beginning of 2005 approached Congress and requested that number be increased to $950 million.
Oh my God.
After donations...
That's a whole nother almost $1 billion. Oh
After
my
donations
God.
from American citizens were included and tallied, the amount of aid that came from the U.S. for this was around $2.78 billion donated. Close to 1 out of every 3 Americans donated at an average of close to $50. Those numbers are almost identical to the relief donations that happened after 9/11.
Wow.
And it's not shocking to hear that because this took place almost 3 years, just over 3 years after 9/11 did. So that was still very fresh in a lot of American citizens' minds. And in the United Kingdom, the government donated around 100 million US dollars. I think it's like 70 million or 65 million pounds. While the citizens of the UK donated 600 million US dollars.
Yo, what the what?
And in 2004, the population of the UK was 59.9 million people. That means on average, including infants and children, prisoners, people who can't work, don't have income, don't have jobs, literally every human being that existed in the UK, on average, donated $10 to the relief fund.
That's crazy.
That's incredible. And I think that in covering such a god-awful disaster that we could spend all night talking about and talking about how sad and horrific it was, it's pretty inspiring to look back and think that something like that happened and the world really did come together. A lot of people around the world don't have a lot. They really don't. But they still gave some of what they could. And 17 years later, a result of that I didn't even realize, a lot of these places that were wiped out have been rebuilt. And they look just as pretty as they did before. In some cases now they have some form of memorial to all the people that passed away there.
Yeah.
And it's pretty amazing. I don't think anyone could have imagined it 17 years ago, but these places were very resilient and decided that they were going to rebuild. It's a reality today, and that's great. And I will say, the one thing that I saw that kind of made me sad was I think they said around 30% of the money that was dedicated to be donated by governments around the world never arrived.
No.
Yeah, so these people said they were going to do it, and then one way or another didn't send it, and they still rebuilt, even though they essentially lost so much. And I think it's pretty incredible that most of the donations came from individuals who wanted to help. So that, my spooky friends, is the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. Cool.
Golf clap.
Thanks. You did your golf clap pretty far away from the mic, but hopefully everyone was able to hear it. We're going to move into a slightly less depressing topic after this commercial break.
Welcome to my half of the episode, and for the not so uplifting but more Christmas themed topic. In the spirit of Christmas, I wanted to do yet again something Christmassy. And if you've been around with us for a while, you know that in the past we've done a couple different Christmas topics. I've done a true crime Christmas edition one. You did Christmas crime.
I've done Christmas miracles twice. Christmas crime. You've done Christmas murders. I remember that.
Yeah, I did. Yep. I did the Christmas murders. This year, I'm going to really get down to the spirit of Christmas. And when I say spirit, I mean ghosts. And not those written by Charles Dickens. I'm going to tell you about a place with a very specific Christmas tale. So for this one, we're going to head over across the pond to the UK, United Kingdom. This one takes place in northeast Hampshire in what is known as the Bramshill House, or Bramshill House, and it is actually home to about 14 separate specters. It was built back in the early 17th century by the 11th Baron Zouche of Herringworth, and he was an English diplomat.
That's the most English name and title I've ever heard.
I mean, that's just what their titles and names are. I don't know. But he was an English diplomat most known for his vote against the condemnation of Mary, Queen of Scots. He was the only vote against sentencing her to death.
Wow.
And he was actually the commissioner for that trial. And he was the only one that voted against murdering her, pretty much. He bought the property in 1605 and built the mansion that you see on the property to this day. He actually died in the home too, so who knows if his ghost is actually wandering around in there as well. He died before construction was able to be finished on the house. He also had no male heir, so this guy just had the worst luck, apparently. But after the building did finish getting constructed, it suffered from a fire that destroyed a good portion of the house as well.
That's a big bummer.
Sir John Cope purchased the property in 1699. His descendants occupied the property until 1935. So they held on to it for a really long time. During their stay, they made a lot of changes to the home. They're responsible for a lot of the renovations and the interior work that you see in there. During World War II, the mansion was used as a Red Cross maternity home. It was then the home of the exiled King Michael and Queen Anne of Romania for a while. It was used as a location for sporting events as well. There's a cricket ground on the estate, and it actually hosted a number of first-class matches. First-class matches are like the highest standard of international and domestic sports matches, like cricket matches.
Do you know how cricket is played?
It's like baseball, but different.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect description.
So yeah, this estate's a pretty big deal. It was acquired by the British government eventually and became the Police Staff College in 1960. And then later on, it became the location of the European Police College. And because of this, there have been campus buildings that have been added to the estate. It is no longer the site for CPOL, though. It's been moved to Budapest in 2014 or something, so they don't train police officers there anymore. But for ghosts, they haven't gone anywhere. So there are supposedly 14 different ghosts that have been identified within this particular home. Supposedly. I say supposedly because you never know. Maybe they're the same ghost and they just walk around to all these different places.
I thought you were going to say like it could be bullshit, but instead you're like, nah, it's probably one ghost changing outfits. That's hilarious.
So there's what is known as the Gray Lady and a Green Man. There's a young child, a young man. There's a woman that looks like they're dressed like Queen Anne style. And there's a whole bunch more. So let's start with...
One of them's a clean-cut man, and the other one has a fake mustache.
So let's start with the child. So there's said to be a child that haunts the library and the fleur-de-lis room. And there's thought to be a child because crying can be heard there. And a small hand has also been felt by some visitors. And it's like as they walk around, it feels like a little kid is holding on to their hand as they're walking around. Legend has it that this child is the child of the Gray Lady, but I think it's just like they're trying to put two and two, like ghosts together and match them up and give reason to why there's these things hanging around, right? And so now there's the Gray Lady. So the Gray Lady is said to haunt the library, the terrace, and the chapel. And it's said that she has a youthful, beautiful appearance, and she has some golden hair, while some argue she has more of a reddish-brown hair. Which is why I'm like, it's a ghost that's just changing. You never know. Maybe they're all the same entity.
She dyes her hair from time to time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Sometimes the older you get, you just gotta dye your hair, right? She wears a gray sleeveless robe and just seems sad. Like her face shows tears that run down her cheeks.
I'm picturing Sarah Paulson from every season and every episode of American Horror Story.
When you see this ghost, the Gray Lady, she smells of lilies of the valley, and some say it's just like lilies. Some say lily of the valley. But I don't know what that smells like. I'm just going to assume it smells like a really nice flower. I think lily of the valley is that flower that you get in Animal Crossing if you get like 5 stars. But I don't know. So people will just randomly smell the smell of flowers. She also is said to have a husband, and this quote-unquote husband of hers is said to haunt the stables and the chapel drawing room. I don't know if there must have been some psychic or something that came in and was just like, this is her husband, this is her kid, and they're all together. Because otherwise, how would you know, right? You can't talk to the ghosts. The ghosts don't tell you like, no, that's my kid, bro. Don't worry about it. I got this. It's just silly. And then there's the Green Man, and it is as it sounds. It's a green man.
There's
it's a big alien. No, what it actually is, it's a man that is dressed in green, and he's supposedly seen more frequently near the lake. It's said to be the ghost of a gardener who drowned in that very lake. There are those, though, that believe that this green man may be a member of the family instead of a gardener, as there was a Cope family member who died in the lake in 1806, according to a journalist named P. Lol.
Lol. So there's a character in Wheel of Time named the Green Man as well.
Is there?
And if he will appear, it will be in the next episode that airs Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific time. I know that's weird and sounds like a plug, and it kind of is, but I find it very interesting that there's a ghost named the Green Man at the exact same time the Green Man episode's about to appear, if he's going to be in the show at all. Coincidence? Probably, yeah.
Keep it to Twats of Twats. If you guys want to listen to more Wheel of Time, go listen to Adam's new podcast, Twats of Twats. The Wheel of Time show about the Wheel of Time show. Anyway, so another person, an author named Penny Legg, on the other hand, believes that that family member that supposedly died in the lake actually threw themselves off of a cliff near Brighton, not at Bramshill. So it's somewhere completely different, because I think it was in Sussex and this is in Hampshire. So it's different. A ghost of a young man has been seen dressed in what seems like a 1920s tennis outfit. This particular ghost is thought to be a Cope family member named Ronald, who fell from a train and died. I don't know why he would be in a tennis outfit, but there you have it. This ghost is supposedly seen around the reception area of the house. There's a small boy that's been seen haunting the terrace of the home. And it is supposedly the very terrace that he fell from and died in sometime during the 18th century.
That's super sad.
So along with these spirits, there is also a lady that is said to dress in the style of Queen Anne. And from the pictures that I've seen, it's like the dress that she had was super deep V-cut. And there was like this little thing kind of covering the main cleavage, but you could still see lots of boob over it. And I was just like, dang. But the dresses are really nice, but they really show a lot of boob.
Okay. I like these ghosts' taste.
Of course you
This
would.
is like a haunted strip club, except there's children.
What the fuck? But yeah, there's also a knight that walks around in armor. It's been seen in the chapel drawing room. Other visitors of the chapel include a nun and another lady in 17th century style dress.
Can you imagine becoming a ghost and having to wear that heavy fucking armor for the rest of eternity? That would suck so bad.
I imagine if Gwendolyn Christie,
Mm-hmm.
if her character died, she would be walking around in armor for the rest of her undead life.
She basically identifies as a knight at all times.
Yep.
Brienne of Tarth.
But she's so strong, she's like, yes, I can do it.
She's so good in that fucking show.
Anyway, so now on to what I really wanted to talk about, and that is the legend of the Mistletoe Bow. And it's Bough. I don't know if...
Bow.
I don't know, because it's about... It's really like the legend of the Mistletoe Bride.
Like deck the halls with boughs of holly. Fa la 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 la.
Yeah, I have no idea. So it's called the legend of the Mistletoe Bow, Bough. But it's also been called the legend of the Mistletoe Bride. I think I'll tell you about it, and then you can figure out why it's named what.
I'm pretty sure those are two separate Hallmark movies, if I'm not mistaken.
God damn it. This legend is about a bride who supposedly hid in a wooden chest during a game of hide and seek on her wedding night. This legend is about a bride who supposedly hid in a wooden chest during a game of hide and seek on her wedding night. And when I read this, I was just like, that's a little bit weird. On your wedding night, why would you be hiding in a wooden box? Why would you want to be playing hide and seek? You should be playing hide and seek with something, but it shouldn't be a wooden chest.
Sounds like that horror movie where the bride gets married and she has to play hide and seek.
Isn't it called hide and seek?
It's called Ready or Not.
Oh, okay. So anyway, in Bramshill House, this story revolves around Christmas, because apparently a bunch of different mansions throughout the UK have their own little telling of a similar story. But this one revolves around Christmas. The bride that hid in the wooden box was found 50 years later. She was still wearing her wedding dress, and she had a sprig of mistletoe. So like a bough of mistletoe in her hand.
But she fucking won hide and seek pretty handily, I'd say.
And supposedly that chest is still on display in the entrance hall of the house. But let me get into the story. So this woman is said to be John Cope's daughter, Anne. She married Hugh Bethel of Yorkshire in the early 17th century at the house on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. So it's around Christmas they have their wedding. It depends on the person who tells the story, obviously. Legend has it that after their wedding, it was time for their first night together, as it should be. Anne, however, was like, let's play hide and seek first. You know, everyone's here for a party. We're going to play hide and seek. Because why not? But she's, you know, maybe she just wants to have fun with all the guests before the night's over. Supposedly, she had a 5-minute head start. So she goes and hides. And the bride can do whatever she wants, right? If it's her wedding, she's like, I'm playing hide and seek, but I get 5 minutes head start. You guys can find me later. So the guests, she goes to hide in the chest, and then the guests begin to search. And guests search the house top to bottom and find no sign of Anne. At first, everyone's like, oh, it's a really cute trick. You know, what is it called when people...
Practical joke.
Yeah, like a practical joke. People thought that she was just joking around. And then more time passed and more time passed. And this celebration turns into concern and worry because they can't find her. So her husband is absolutely distraught at having lost her bride. Rumors spread that she actually had run away and that she'd rather run away than actually be married to this guy. Grief-stricken, Lord Bethel spent decades searching for her. And 50 years after she disappeared, he's looking through the attic, still looking for any sign of what could have possibly happened. Any clues. He knocks on some oak paneling in the attic, and a hidden, secret, unknown door opens. And inside is an elaborately carved wooden chest. When he opens the chest, the skeletal remains of Anne were inside. And she still had on her wedding dress, and she still had a bouquet in her hand. And then inside the lid of the chest were a bunch of scratch marks from her trying to escape the box. Samuel Rogers, a 19th century English poet, wrote, quote, "Oh, sad was her fate, in sport of jest, she hid from her lord in an old oak chest. It closed with a spring, and her bridal bloom lay withering there in that living tomb."
It's fucked up. It's so sad, too.
It's really sad. This woman could have been someone named Ginevra Orsini, who got married in 1727, and that her ghost came with the chest from Italy. So it happened in Italy, and the chest got, delivered over to England.
Can you imagine carrying a chest and being like,
and
God damn, this thing is so heavy?
But the chest was haunted. So the ghost was with the chest. But that being said, the identity of the unlucky bride changes with each telling of the story. Some say it was because the lid was so heavy that she couldn't have opened it herself from the inside. And like that little poem, it like sprung shut on her, which I find hard to believe. Other iterations have the box locked from the outside. To me, either way, I feel like she was murdered or something, because how does that happen?
Yeah, foul play is where my head went to.
There's no justice if she got murdered, because no one was blamed for a murder. It was just like, well, she locked herself inside a box. Whoops. So this ghost bride is called the White Lady and is said to haunt the long gallery, the fleur-de-lis room, and the area near the chest, the displayed chest. According to Legge, that author I mentioned earlier, King Michael of Romania asked to be moved to a different room during his stay because he didn't want to be disturbed by the young woman in white who passed through his bedroom every night.
Holy shit.
Apparently, he went so far as to have an exorcism performed, which did not work. In the 1930s, Joan Penelope Cope and her brother often woke to the White Lady at their bedsides. Throughout the 19th century, songs and poems and things were all written about the tale of this unfortunate bride. The first was in 1809, titled The Melancholy Occurrence. One of the most popular songs was the Mistletoe Bow by Sir Henry Bishop. Apparently, the song was so popular, it became common for it to be sung in households during Christmas time. There's even a short film titled the same from 1904. So apparently it became just this huge... It went viral, right? It went viral back in the day.
It's way harder to go viral back in the day.
Right?
Apparently you had to die in a horrific way like this.
In a book written by Sir William Henry Cope in 1883, it is stated that the chest on display in the home is currently just a facsimile, which means it's a reproduction of the original box. The original box was large enough for a woman of comely proportions to fit in there. What I think that just means is like you could lay down in the original box. But it was removed by Sir Denzil Cope's widow in 1812. An old man with a gray beard has also been said to appear staring through the windows and also found staring at the mistletoe chest. Because of this interest in the chest, it's thought that this old man is the father or the husband of the White Lady. Other identities could be a gamekeeper that was accidentally killed by an arrow fired by the then Archbishop of Canterbury in 1621 while out hunting. But the structure was designated a Grade 1 listed building on July 8, 1952, which means it's now a historical building. You can't tear it down or anything. The grounds itself received a Grade 2 listing in 1984, so it's now a registered historic park. By 1989, the estate was, though, put in like a poor state of repair, and because of escalating maintenance costs, the estate was sold to the City and Country in August of 2014, and they are a heritage property developer, so they probably, I don't know, fix things up, and sell them for way more. It was sold for £25 million
Holy
to
shit.
them. Which is over $50 million US dollars. In 2018, the house and a reduced property size of about 90 acres, it's like 94 acres or something, was put back on the market at £10 million. So that's over 20 million US dollars. I did not look at a conversion calculator. Sorry, guys. And then Film Fact. So Film Fact, Hannah Season 2, has parts of it that were filmed featuring the Bramshill house.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I have not watched that show yet.
I haven't watched that show either, but your mom was watching it the other day.
I was going to say, I'm
so
pretty sure
just add that
Spooky
in there.
Mama's on Season 3, if Season 3 exists. So.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. Good stuff.
Oh, thanks. Thank the ghosts.
Thanks, Ghosts. Thanks, Ghosts, for doing your haunting. I would love to go visit this place. It sounds gorgeous.
Really?
It's very similar to some of the other places that you've done where it's like this absolutely breathtaking, gigantic palace of a home has a fuck ton of ghosts in it, and I am all about that. So
Okay.
we just need our TV show and then someone to send us out there, and I'll be like 100% down to do a couple episodes at least. So,
Cool.
Good stuff, Robin.
Thanks.
All right, so I think that's everything we have for episode 210. If you have a story you would like to share with us, please reach out to us by emailing storytime@scaryish.com or going to our website, scaryish.com, and clicking on Contact Us. Fill out that form. It comes directly to us, or you can hit us up on our social medias. Twitter is @ScarishPod, Instagram is @ScarishPodcast, and Facebook, it's facebook.com/ScarishPodcast. We would love to hear from you. Robin, for folks who would like to donate to us, how can they do so?
You can go to patreon.com/ScarishPodcast, and those are monthly donations. Tiers start at $1. At $1, you get ad-free. You can't go wrong there. If you're not into the monthly donation type thing, you can also go to coffee, ko-fi.com/ScarishPodcast, and all your donations help us keep on going.
Indeed. So thank you so much for listening to episode 210. Happy holidays to everyone out there. We hope you have a fun and safe holiday. And that's everything for us. So Robin, go ahead and sign us out.
Keep on creeping on. We'll talk to you guys later.
Bye-bye.